Hello class, welcome to our lesson today dealing with the percent proportion. What we're going to look at in section 6.3 and 6.4 deals with what are known as the percent proportion and percent equation. Those are two ways that you can solve a lot of questions that deal with percentages. Let's just start off by saying that I want everyone to try the ideas we're looking at today and as we move through these next two lessons. I know it may not be the way that you're used to solving some things, but I'd like everyone to try them out, and by the time we're done with the two sections, then you can kind of pick and choose which option you would like to use for the future. First thing we're going to look at is just reviewing some things with graphing and solving inequalities. Remember that solving inequalities is just like solving equations. You just have to make sure you know when to flip the sign. So for this first one, I'm going to get rid of -1 by doing +1 on both sides. That gives me 3x is greater than 9. And then divide both sides by 3 to get x greater than 3. That would be an open circle because it doesn't have the line underneath, which means equal to. And then the arrow would be going to the right because it's a greater than scenario. The second one should be similar. To get rid of +2, I'm going to do -2 on both sides. And then to get rid of the -5 out front, I'm going to divide by that number, the coefficient. This is where you flip the sign. Anytime you multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip the sign. And that will be x less than or equal to -2, filled in circle because it has the equal to, and then arrow to the left because it's a less than situation. Okay, what we're going to be dealing with here is what are known as three things dealing with percentages, what are known as the part, the whole, and the percentage. So, in this statement, 25% of 12 is 3. Okay, in application-wise, there's three different versions that you might have to solve for. One is, what is 25% of 12? So I'm telling you what the number is out of. Think of like a grade situation. I'm saying the test is out of 12. What you're missing is the part or what you got on the test, and that's the number 3 in this case, which is the part of the number. 3 is what percent of 12. What's missing is the percentage. You're trying to say 3 is what percent out of 12. You got 3 out of 12 on something. What percent is that? And then 3 is 25% of something. They're giving you the piece of it. You're saying what's the test out of, essentially, which is the whole amount. So the word of, okay, out of something, of should be the denominator of a fraction. It should be what the test is out of. It should be the total for any of those situations. Okay, now this should this idea is going to relate well to those of you that play video games, and I want everyone to try this out today, just to practice the idea and see if you can figure out what it's saying. I want you to think of this bar as like a health bar in a video game. Okay, this would represent 100%. If it was full health, you'd be at 100%. Okay, but what we're saying is we're trying to figure out what number is 50% of 30. I don't have 100% of my health. I have 50% of my health. But I know my total health or HP or whatever you're dealing with in a video game, okay, is out of 30, which means my entire health bars were 30, and I'm trying to figure out how many I have left. And all this is a proportion then at that point. It's x over 30, my portion out of 30 equals the 50% of the 100% health bar, and then it's just cross multiply and solve. Obviously, there's other ways to find these answers. Everyone needs to know how to deal with cross multiplication because not every answer will work out as well as you hope. So make sure you know how to cross multiply here. So 50 times 30 and then divide by 100 to get x by itself. And you should get x equals 15. But we're going to use this model idea today. And I know it's different for a lot of you. And you have other strategies. Okay, but this health bar idea with the idea of a game might be helpful to some of you to visually think about how this is set up. Okay, so this next one, 75% of 30. So I have 75% of 100%. That's this area right here. So 75 out of 100 is the percentage equals x out of 30. Cross multiply and solve. So some of these I haven't cross multiplied because we're trying to focus on getting the setup right, and then we can deal with the cross multiplication. This one says 40% of 30. So 40% out of 100% is x out of 30. So that'd be x over 30 equals 40 out of 100. And again, I would cross multiply in order to figure out what that answer would be to this scenario. Next one is 6%. So here's my health bar. I'm probably exaggerating a little bit. 6% would probably be much smaller, but it'd be 6% out of 100%. That's a 6 out of 100 equals x over 30. And again, cross multiply and solve. Next one, 65%, so that's 65% of the health bar out of 100%, so 65 out of 100. X over 30, you cross multiply and solve. Okay, so it's very repetitive at that point. It's all about proportion, so it's the percent you got out of 100% and the amount you have out of your total in order to figure out what the proportion needs to look like. Okay, the next one is a different style of question, but you can still use the health bar idea to figure it out. 15 is what percent of 75? So I know I have 15 out of 75, but what I don't know is this percentage. So it'd be 15 out of 75 equals x over 100. Cross multiply 15 times 100 equals 75x. Divide by 75, and I'll get 20, which represents 20% in this scenario. Okay, so it's the same exact logic. It's just the missing piece is in one of those three locations. You just have to figure out which one it is. 5 is what percent of 20? I have 5 out of 20, so 5 over 20 equals x over 100. I would cross multiply it and solve. 18 is what percent of 40? I've got 18. It's out of 40, so that's 18 over 40 equals x out of 100. Cross multiply and solve. Okay, I want everyone to try this health bar idea. I just want you to draw it out real quick for today's lesson. We're going to be looking for that for your homework for the next day. We want to make sure that you're looking at this idea from kind of a visual perspective and also from the algebraic method of dealing with proportions. 50 is what percent of 80? Okay, so 50 out of 80, so 50 out of 80 equals x over 100 because it's out of 100%. Cross multiply, solve. Okay, now letter E here is the tricky one. It says 75 is what percent of 50? 50 represents 100%. My number, 75, is higher than that. So think of this like you have a shield or you have some type of extra cloak or clothing on a game, or you have a weapon that gives you extra ability. Okay, that idea from the video game makes your HP higher. So if that's the case, then it should be 75 is on top out of 50 still, and then x over 100. Here's what you want to recognize. I should have over 100% full health. Okay, I'm past my barrier at that point, and I should have over 100% that I'm looking at, not less than. Okay, the next one, 24 is 33.1/3% of what number? Okay, we're going to focus less on the cross multiplying on this case. Let's just focus in on what goes where. I know my percentage is out of 100, so that's 33 1/3 out of 100. My part, because it's 24 is some percent, that's my health portion. And what I'm looking for is the total. So it's 24 out of x, and it'd be 24 over x equals 33 1/3 over 100. Really, this is a 1/3 scenario. I'm not focused on that idea right now for this scenario. We need to make sure we get things in the right spot. Next one, 13 is. So 13 is the part. I don't know what it's out of, so that's x. 25% out of 100. 13 over x, 25 over 100. Set them equal, cross multiply, solve. Very repetitive. 110 is. 110 out of something is 20 out of 100%. Cross multiply, solve. Again, repetition, repetition. Okay, so when you're dealing with these scenarios, what you want to look at, I know the part. I don't know what my whole health bar is out of, but I do know what percent I have. And then I can set up part over whole, percent, and 100%. Okay, out of 100% in order to figure out how to set it up. 75 is 75% of what number? This one's kind of silly because they're both 75, so this obviously is going to be 100. Okay, but 75 out of something equals 75 out of 100. 81 is 45% of what number? 45% goes with the 100%. 81 is my portion, and then x is what it's out of. So 81 over x equals 45 over 100. Okay, that was a lot of different questions to look at. For your homework today, there's not very many questions, but I want you to draw out the health bar idea and the proportion, each question on 5 through 10. Okay, so they should look something like this. Okay, notice I filled in these ones, probably fill those in, okay, rather than leave them empty, but you need the health bar idea. I want it drawn out, okay, with the 4 numbers, so 3 should be known, and then a variable x for the 4th spot, and then write the proportion and see if you can get it solved by just cross multiplying. Okay, there's some directions in the homework that says something about a ratio table. I don't even want you to worry about that. I just want you to do this idea with the health bar idea, like these questions. There were plenty of examples that you could go through with all of these scenarios in order to figure out how to find those answers. And then the review questions 32 through 35, make sure you have a little bit of work shown about how you found those answers. Have a good day, everyone.